Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Absolutely. Always ready to dive in.
All right, so today we're cracking open a real classic, Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Ooh, To Kill a Mockingbird. A good one.
It's one of those books that just stays with you.
Definitely.
And we're zeroing in on chapter 21.
The courtroom climax, right?
You got it, the heart of the trial.
So much happening in that chapter.
It really is. And you guys sent in some amazing sources, by the way.
Yeah, some great insights from the listeners.
I can't wait to unpack it all, but first I gotta say,
What's that?
chapter 21, it's a masterclass in tension.
Oh, yeah, Lee really nails that feeling of suspense.
Without ever explicitly stating it.
It's all about what's not being said, the subtle cues, the reactions.
Exactly, like right from the start.
Where we find Jem, Scout, and Dill.
Sneaking into the colored balcony to watch the trial.
Oh yeah, talk about forbidden knowledge.
Right, like you're not supposed to be there. Adds this whole layer of intrigue.
Totally, and you've got these kids
Wide-eyed, innocent,
colliding headfirst with the adult world.
and all its complexities, the harsh realities.
And it's not just about the kids either.
No, because then Calpurnia shows up.
And she is not happy.
Peeved is the word Lee uses.
Peeved, but that one word says so much.
Doesn't it? About the racial divide in Maycomb, especially for Calpurnia, this isn't just some trial.
It's personal, potentially even traumatic, especially for Scout to see.
Exactly, and it really highlights how
Even in a close-knit community, those lines are so sharply drawn.
it's a reminder that those boundaries, they exist even in the most seemingly...
Harmonious places.
Yeah, and speaking of reminders,
What's that?
we see Atticus, and he comes to get the kids, but he's described as exhausted.
Oh, absolutely. It's more than just a long day in court.
Right, like there's this weight on him,
The weight of the town's prejudice, that knowledge that he's fighting an uphill battle.
and probably losing, which makes you think, how does someone like Atticus keep going?
I mean, how do you find the strength to fight for what's right when it feels like you're constantly pushing against a wall?
It has to be exhausting.
It does, but it speaks to that unwavering moral compass.
That refusal to accept things as they are.
To keep striving for something better, even when it's hard, even when it's draining.
So then we move into this agonizing wait for the verdict, and the way Lee describes it, man,
The sensory details, right?
it's like you're right there in the courtroom.
The empty jury box, the silence, the ticking clock.
You can practically feel the tension.
Oh, absolutely palpable. Everyone holding their breath.
And in that silence, Reverend Sykes says something that just cuts through you.
What's that?
He says, I ain't ever seen any jury decide in favor of a colored man over a white man.
Whoa, yeah, that line hits hard.
It just lays bare the reality of the situation.
The systemic racism that's at play.
And it contrasts so sharply with Jem's optimism, right? He's still so innocent, he really believes in a just world.
He's holding on to that childhood faith in fairness, which makes what happens next even more devastating.
It's like a crash course in reality for
A
him.
brutal loss of innocence.
Yeah, and Lee, she doesn't just tell us he's upset, she shows us
How does she do that?
with that image of him as the verdict is read.
Oh, you mean that line about...
His shoulders jerked as if each guilty was a separate stab between them.
Oh, yeah, that's powerful.
It's like you can physically feel each word hitting him.
Visceral, you really feel Jem's pain.
And then there's Atticus, who doesn't react outwardly at all.
No, he's just so...
He packs his things, whispers something to Tom Robinson.
What do you think he said?
I have no idea, but it's just this quiet dignity.
In the face of defeat?
Makes you wonder what's going through his mind.
So much unspoken emotion there, right?
And then the black community in the balcony, they all stand up as Atticus walks out.
Oh, man, chills.
Right, this silent tribute to the man who fought for them.
Even though he lost.
It's a powerful moment. And then just as Atticus is leaving, Reverend Sykes says to Scout, Miss Jean-Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
Whoa, what a line.
Right. What do you make of that?
It's so layered, like on the surface, he's just telling her to stand as Atticus leaves, but
It feels like something more, doesn't it?
like maybe it's not just Atticus leaving the courtroom, but a part of him, his faith in justice, is passing away too.
That's a really interesting interpretation.
It's like this chapter is about more than just a trial. It's about the loss of innocence, disillusionment, the weight of history.
Yeah, definitely.
And the way it's written, it just leaves you with so many questions, so much to unpack. It really is, and I think that's why it resonates so much with readers.
Oh,
It
absolutely.
forces you to look beyond the courtroom, you know?
To confront these uncomfortable truths about ourselves, about society.
Exactly. And Lou does such a brilliant job of using the children's perspective to do that.
Oh, yeah, they're trying to make sense of what they're seeing, trying to reconcile it with their understanding of the world.
Like when Jem tries to explain the legal complexities of rape to Scout. Remember that.
Oh, yeah, it's heartbreaking.
It really is, because it shows how desperately he's trying to grasp the situation.
He wants to believe in a just world.
But he's confronted with this harsh reality, and he's trying to make sense of it.
It's such a powerful depiction of that loss of innocence.
And Scout, with her childlike perception, she picks up on all these subtle nuances too.
Oh, totally. The way people look at Tom Robinson, the unspoken tension in the courtroom.
It's like she's absorbing the world around her, even if she doesn't fully understand it yet.
Right, and that process of observation and questioning, it's so crucial.
It's how she, and we as readers, begin to grapple with these really complex issues.
Prejudice, injustice, all of it.
And it all comes back to the title of the book, right? To Kill a Mockingbird.
I was just thinking that. Atticus tells the kids it's a sin to kill a mockingbird.
Because all they do is sing their hearts out for us.
It's such a simple line, but it carries so much weight.
It really does. It elevates the mockingbird to this symbol of innocence, purity, those who are unjustly harmed.
So in this chapter, Tom Robinson becomes the mockingbird.
Right, he's falsely accused, convicted, his life essentially destroyed because of the color of his skin.
But it's not just Tom, is it?
No, I think you could argue that Atticus, by defending him, also becomes a mockingbird in a way.
How so?
He's challenging the status quo, he's putting himself at odds with the community, he's risking his reputation to protect innocence and fight for what's right.
That's a really interesting take. I never thought about it like that.
It's like the mockingbird represents anyone who stands up for what's right, even when it's difficult, even when it's unpopular.
And that's really the heart of this chapter, isn't it?
It is. It's about more than just a trial. It's about moral courage, about standing up for what you believe in, even when the world is telling you to stay silent.
It's a call to action, a reminder that we all have a responsibility to protect the mockingbirds in our own lives.
To speak out against injustice, to challenge prejudice, to stand up for those who are being silenced.
And that's a message that's just as relevant today as it was when the book was first published.
Absolutely. To Kill a Mockingbird is a timeless story, and its message continues to resonate with readers of all ages. And it makes you wonder, like, how do we do that? How do we protect those mockingbirds?
That's the million-dollar question, right? I mean, this chapter, it's a wake-up call.
It is. It's like Lee is holding a mirror up to society.
And showing us these uncomfortable truths.
The deep-seated prejudices, the ways in which we fail to protect the innocent.
Yeah, and it's not just about big, obvious acts of injustice either.
Right, it's about the everyday things.
The subtle ways in which we perpetuate these systems.
The things we say, the things we don't say, the way we look at each other.
It's all connected.
It is, and this chapter really forces us to examine those connections, you know?
To think about the ways in which our own actions, even the seemingly small ones,
Can contribute to a culture of prejudice and injustice.
it's a heavy thought.
It is, but it's an important one.
Absolutely. And speaking of heavy,
What's that?
remember that feeling Scout describes while they're waiting for the verdict?
Oh yeah, she compares it to a cold February morning. Everything's still and silent.
Even the mockingbirds are quiet.
And she connects that feeling to the tension in the courtroom, even though it's a hot summer night.
It's like she's sensing something deeper, something ominous.
The weight of history, maybe, or the oppressive reality of racism in Maytum.
Yeah, and that sense of foreboding, it's amplified by the description of the jury.
You mean when Scout says that a jury never looks at a defendant it has convicted?
Exactly. And then, when they return, not one of them looked at Tom Robinson.
Man, that's a powerful detail.
It's like their guilt is written all over their faces.
I can't even meet his eyes.
Because they know what they've done.
They've condemned an innocent man.
And then, that repetition of the word guilty,
Each one a hammer blow.
driving home the injustice of the verdict.
It's hard to read, honestly.
It is, but it's important that we don't shy away from those difficult moments.
Absolutely, because they force us to confront the ugliness of prejudice.
And the devastating consequences it has on real people.
It's a reminder that these aren't just abstract concepts, you know?
No, they have real-world implications.
They shape lives, they destroy lives.
And that's why it's so important to keep fighting against them.
To keep pushing for change, to keep speaking out against injustice,
Even when it feels hopeless.
especially when it feels hopeless.
And that's where the final line of the chapter comes in, right? Miss Jean-Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
Man, what a line to end on.
It's so powerful, so open to interpretation.
What do you think it means?
I think on one level, it's simply Reverend Sykes telling Scout to stand up as Atticus leaves the courtroom.
Right, but it feels like something more, doesn't it?
Definitely. Like, maybe it's not just Atticus leaving the courtroom, but a part of him, his faith in humanity, is passing away too.
It's like he's walking through fire and he comes out the other side forever changed.
Maybe even a little bit broken.
But not defeated.
Right. He's still standing. He's still fighting.
And that's the message I take away from this chapter. Even in the face of such profound injustice,
There's still hope.
there is. We can't give up.
We have to keep fighting for what's right. Keep believing in a better future.
And remember that even small acts of resistance, they can make a difference.
Like the Black community standing up as Atticus walks out.
Exactly. It's a powerful image of solidarity, a reminder that we're not alone in this fight.
That's a great note to end on.
It is. It's a message of hope, a call to action.
So, to everyone listening, what does Atticus's walk out of the courtroom symbolize to you?
What does this chapter tell you about the world of To Kill a Mockingbird?
And more importantly, what does it tell you about our own world?
Think about it, talk about it, and most importantly, act on it.
Because the fight for justice, it's a fight we all have to be a part of.
And that wraps up our deep dive into Chapter 21 of To Kill a Mockingbird.
We hope you found it insightful, thought-provoking, and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Keep those pages turning, folks, and we'll see you next time.
Until then, stay curious and keep exploring